Leadership, self-leadership is being the CEO of yourself. So it helped me a lot having all these circumstances, being the Honorary Consul of the Netherlands since 99 till today. I'm the Honorary Consul of the Netherlands in Syria, in the Syrian coast. I moved to a mall business for retail. I rented a big mall and 3 supermarkets. I mean, entering in new fields, trying something new, trying to prove yourself, to study about the business that you are going to go inside. It helps you a lot to be a leader. Telling your story at the end of the day, when we are invited to be speakers about our story, our experience, it all helps to show how to become a leader.
I mean, we all have our own path and we all have our own challenges, without a doubt. No human being goes without challenges. But I do feel that challenges help us grow, evolve. They're a big part of life. So, Summer, what challenges did you encounter when learning to lead yourself? And how did you learn to analyze them correctly?
Well, to be honest, I think that my biggest challenge was myself. I was my own challenge. I was standing in the way of, my becoming who I am today.
Yeah, they do say you're in the way of yourself, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and it's so true. It is so true. Like in my case, honestly, I felt like, after years of being out of work, being a mother, etc., you go through phases of self-doubt, about your own abilities, and you really need to overcome this. And it's a big step to do that. You need to have a positive growth mindset. You need to invest in yourself. You need to, I've done a lot of personal investment in learning, in, enrolling in courses, in finding the right mentors and coaches to overcome these challenges. And it took time. And I'm also a very proud member of Vital Voices Fellowship, which also, by the way, in follow-up to what Yasmina was saying about leadership, really helps bring to the scene as well sort of a new model of leadership. I don't think now when you say leadership or a leader, the image that comes to your mind is the same image that used to come to mind with the traditional leadership model. So when one used to think of a leader, you used to think of somebody who is, hierarchical, decisive, firm, etc. But today, and there was a beautiful article about this written by Elise Nelson, the president and CEO of Vital Voices. It was who becomes a leader or what to become a leader. It was in the New York Times. And I think the leader is somebody who has empathy, somebody who has perseverance, somebody who leads with a totally different, somebody who listens, and not just says or requests actions. So I'm very proud to be part of this school of leadership, I must say, and it helps as well very much with aligning again with everything else that I do, with She is Arab.
Yeah, you did mention at the beginning of that, as a mother, you had those doubts coming back out into the work life. And leadership has changed considerably because I've met so many mothers now who have left the corporate life, had the children, and now are the CEO of some successful small businesses that are growing. So it has changed the outlook of how we consider leaders.
100%.
Yasmina, tell me about some of the challenges you've encountered.
Oh, I faced a lot, I had to run away from Syria at the beginning of the war because I was threatened to be kidnapped, myself and my children. So we came to Dubai and I spent 2 years in Sharjah. I was crying, I didn't know what to do, I was totally lost. My children felt uprooted. Then I decided, I got sick a lot, and then at the hospital, I looked at myself, I said, what I'm doing? And I was already 3 times informed, so why I'm killing myself? So I have to stand up again and to face my reality. So what can I do? So I decided to establish a new company, which is international commercial brokerage. So I counted on all my old connections. I felt I had to study what are my weakness and my strengths. And I decided to work on that and to benefit from my strengths. And I established my new company, and after 8 years, I'm doing very well.
You're doing very well.
Yes, I'm doing well.
You mentioned a very important point, which is really that you're surrounding the people who are
exactly.
Because honestly, if you don't have this nurturing environment around you, somebody who can really pull you up, somebody who really has your back, not just one person. By that I mean obviously a group of trusted people who you can always go back to for advice, for help whenever needed.
That's why I'm happy to tell always my story, because it's encouraging other ladies, especially ladies, when they feel down. I mean, just go on again, try again. I mean, fail and try, but never fail. Try and fail, but never fail to try. That I always like.
Have you seen more of a challenge when it comes to women failing and getting back up compared to men failing and getting back up? Is there a difference, do you think? You're nodding your head right now. What's the difference?
I think it's always more challenging for women, and that's definitely the reason why we don't see so many women in leadership positions in the first place. McKinsey already says it very clearly. When on the first step to becoming a manager, out of every 100 men who get to manager position, only 72 women get that position, and then it keeps going up like a pyramid, like a triangle. So as a woman, you're already, faced with so many challenges. You're already surrounded by several other issues besides your own self and besides the challenges that you're personally facing and whether or not you're a mother and so on. But there are circumstances at the workplace. There are policies that don't necessarily work for you. In some instances, they work against you. But I mean, needless to say, women's full integration in the workforce is a 100% not nice to have, but a must have. And hopefully, with these new leadership models, we've seen so many of them now with COVID-19 and all these amazing women leading countries such as in New Zealand, Her Excellency Jacinda Ardern and others. I think these new leadership models are going to take over. More women are going to start showing up in leadership positions. The multiple initiatives that are now available to support women on their journey will definitely culminate in having more women at the top.
Yeah, and I've met so many entrepreneurs here, in Dubai more than probably in England where I grew up. It's a big growing scene. And I just want to tell everybody out there, I will be opening these questions to all of you. So you can all put your questions, send them to us. So Yasmina and Sama will answer them all. So I won't be talking for all the time. But let me ask you now, Yasmina. Now, we all need help. As Sama said, we all have mentors and coaches. So how did you learn what it takes to get to where you are today? Did you have people helping you? Did you have mentors or coaches that you look back at and say, if it wasn't for that person or giving me that piece of advice?
It was my father. It was always my father, He was my mentor, really, because I was working with him in the office, so I learned a lot of him, Now life changed, the way of conducting business changed, but, the base that I have, I always thank my father for giving it to me. When I write my emails, I see my father in my emails.
Oh.
You should have somebody, from whom you learn. So for me, it was my father.
What is it that he taught you?
I was with him in the office,
Especially as a woman, did he teach you the same as the way he works, or was it different for you?
It was exactly the same.
So what were some of the core traits that he said, the skills to become a leader that you got from him?
I started working, I was 17, because my mother is from Serbia, my father is from Syria. So at home we were talking French with my father, and both were talking French together. I was talking in Arabic to my father and in Serbian to my mother. So I started to study French literature. It was very easy for me, so I decided to go to the office. I started when I was 17. Now it's almost 43 years that I'm working. So yes, it's a long time. You get experience. It's accumulated. That you get the positive reputation. It helps you a lot. I wanted to add that for the gap between males and females, I see that it's being reduced, especially in Dubai. Everybody was willing to help me when I started my business. People that I know, people that I don't know, my connections via LinkedIn. Everybody was so helpful to me. So I think that this gap is really less seen nowadays.
It's amazing, right? I always say when you share your passion about what you're doing and when people really believe in what you're doing, you won't believe how many people will come to your rescue or will offer to help you, but you just need to ask. You just need to have the courage to actually go and ask.
Correct.
And what about mentors and coaches for you and helping you get, she's outgoing as well?
Well, to be honest, I think mentorship and coaching is an integral part of any leadership journey, in my humble view. It's about the process, though, of identifying who the right mentor should be for you. You know, obviously, not because I'm a woman, I should have a woman mentor. It's fine to have a male mentor. You really need to find someone you look up to, somebody you feel you can learn something from, and ask for help. And I was very grateful, and I still am, to have some wonderful mentors within my circle. I've also had, some coaching, some executive coaching as well along the way. And this has helped me a lot in, I would say, implementing what I've learned from books, what I've heard at conferences and events like this one, really putting it down, really thinking deeply about what my values are, what my purpose is, putting everything in place, and actually reminding me, sometimes you forget you have like some goals and aspirations, but you put them on the side for a while. I had to go through this exercise, and it was beautiful. So I think I would highly recommend it.
When you look back, the kind of leader, let's say you said you've been working 43 years, let's say you look back 10 years or 20 years or even 5 years or 10 years, do you see a change in the way you lead now? Have you become softer? Have you become harder?
There is a big difference. I think that now I used to use only my brain. I saw that it's the way that business should be conducted, it's the way that leadership should be. But now I think that we should use our brain, but put our heart in our bag with us. So we should make a balance between our brain and our heart, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, I always have this balance. I mean, when I want to take a decision as a leader in business, even in our lives, because leadership starts in our family. So if you are a leader as well in your family, so it's the nature. So I use my brain and my heart together.
What about you?
Beautiful. I think, as I mentioned before, and by the way, it's not 5 or 10 years, but thank you. I guess the makeup worked today. No, I've actually had a very long career in international development prior to starting She is Arab. I've also started working at a very young age because my father's an entrepreneur. So we actually had to go work in the business since I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. We used to do everything from literally from warehousing, accounting, whatever. My father at the time was in the retail business, and lots of learnings from that phase, by the way. But I think, yes, it has changed because I have grown, because I have changed. There are things that I used to compromise on before. I don't do that anymore. I know my priorities. I understand my values better. So, for example, my number one value is my family. I know that for sure. So that tops anything else. I always go back, revisit them before I go forward. And I think the issue of empathy, before we used to look at it perhaps with a slight sense of shame, if you were too kind or too empathetic or so on.
Yeah.
Now it actually makes you proud. If you actually are an empathetic person, it's one of the soft skills or the fourth industrial revolution skills now. It's not just about, understanding AI and digital and so on. No, but it's everything from communication skills, empathy, listening. I think we've come a long way.
There are so many entrepreneurial books now in the world. Like my friends are reading them all the time, and I find it quite overwhelming. Are there any that you'd recommend that have helped you along your journey, or that you've read recently?
Well, yes, I have 2 books that I'd like to recommend on leadership in particular. The first one is Brene Brown's Dare to Lead.
Yes, I love that.
And I know that this is obviously it's a very popular book. Dr. Brene Brown is very well known for her study, particularly her studies of shame, I would say. But I love how this book, explains that you really need courage first. You must develop courage and then be able to lead with. One of my favorite reads. Obviously, I won't go through the details, but she actually summarizes that her research came with or concluded with 4 necessary skills. And the number one is rumbling with vulnerability, is really toiling around with your own weaknesses and your vulnerabilities and understanding yourself better. And the last one will be obviously learning to rise. So it's a very interesting book. I highly recommend reading it. And the other one, and honestly as well, she also talks about aligning your beliefs and so on with the actions that you do and your values as well. So I love that book. The other one, which is not a very conventional one, but I also highly recommend it to the audience, is Flying Without a Net. That's a book I thoroughly enjoyed. It's by Professor Thomas DeLonge. He's a Harvard professor, and he also talks about drawing strength from your vulnerability and becoming fearless, really. And he explains it in a very interesting way. It's almost like an inverted triangle where you have anxiety, courage, and vulnerability. And he puts it in like 4 quadrants. But basically, you need to deal with your anxiety, have the courage, to deal with anxiety in order to grow. And with growth comes this, vulnerability. I might not be explaining it very well, but the bottom line is, he says you need to start doing the right things poorly before you're able to do the right things right.
That makes sense.
So you shouldn't be ashamed of trying to do the wrong things.
I mean, I was really bad presenter when I first started. So
I don't believe you.
okay, that's my producer. Yeah, but it's true. You learn from your mistakes, and if you have the passion and the perseverance, you won't run away from saying I'm bad. But like, no, I want to do this. I want to give it a go, and that's when you're following your passion. And everyone out there, if you've got any books that you can recommend, do tell us, and do send your questions. Summer and Yasmina are here to answer them. Yasmina, any books that you recommend for us?
I'm sorry. I mean, you'll be very disappointed. I never read books. I only read so many articles, I'm all the time on internet.
Something.
Yes, but I don't read book, but I'm always on internet. I'm always reading articles.
Yeah.
I go through LinkedIn. I Google articles that I need to read. And very often I take notes. I mean, whenever I read something which looks like me, or from which I can learn.
Resonate with.
Exactly.
Yes.
Honestly, Yasmina, with a journey like yours, I mean, you already have so many learnings along the way, from your country, having started from scratch.
But I read a lot, but not a book.
I can write a book.
You need to write your book.
Yeah, a lot of people are telling me to write a book.
I think
maybe
we need to hear your
I
book.
still feel that I didn't reach the end, so maybe I'm waiting for something to happen.
But there really is no end. It's a constant journey.
Yes,
You're constantly
very
learning.
true.
You're constantly
Very
evolving. You don't get to that leadership. I've made it now. I mean, look at Richard Branson. He never stops.
Exactly.
100%. Exactly.
And then we are like a snowball, I mean, I started by doing my company here. Then I was asked to be representing Armenian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Dubai. I accepted. Then Abkhazia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I accepted. Then the Arab Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I accepted.
Wow.
Now the Indian Businesswomen Council, I am leading it.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, I mean, you become like a snowball. So you have no time. I mean, you really have no time just to focus on something. And recently, I'm proud to be nominated among the G100. These are, it's a big association for Group 100, which are for remarkable 100 powerful businesswomen. And I was nominated for the public relations.
Amazing.
So, yes, it was recently. I mean, so I'm proud of it. But
I think your book's really quite thick, yes.
Yes, exactly. I mean, listen, already as an entrepreneur, the learning curve is already steep. But with such exposure as well, with so much travel, I think you have a lot.
So you never know what it's the end. I mean, it's endless.
It is endless.
It's endless.
And that's the beauty of the journey. You just keep going and see where it takes you. Just a question for you, Samara. Adina Murray said, sorry, could you please repeat the title of the book that you mentioned she wanted to make a note?
For sure. Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. And the second one is Flying Without a Net by Thomas DeLonge, DeLong.
Okay, so I have a question for you. All the men out there are not going to be happy about this. Have you ever come across men who've been uncomfortable with you as a woman being a leader in your field, and how have you dealt with it? Because I have.
You have.
Yes.
Well, you tell us then. Let's start with you.
It's like, for example, this is about you too, but to trick you guys is that when I was on shoot one day, so I was telling the cameraman what to do, and the director said, "Why is she being so bossy?" Whereas it wasn't said to my male co-presenter. And you know what I mean? But I was just doing my job because I could see a shot that wasn't being done. And I know a lot of women in a lot of industries, they're just being normal, saying what they feel, are being bossy, little bit, okay, temperamental.
For me,
So
it never happened.
it's never happened to
No.
you?
No.
To be honest, the challenges I faced as an Arab woman were mostly related to stereotyping. Were
Yeah.
mostly related to, I used to get questions like, "Oh, how come you speak English so well?" Oh, like very like sometimes microaggressions,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think I necessarily faced it, by somebody in a leadership position, and it might be because of the organizations I've worked for as well. Because I used to work with international organizations, NGOs, nonprofits, and so on. So in that space, I honestly didn't face any particular. Nothing comes to mind that I come.
Do you think anyone and everyone can be a leader, an entrepreneur, or just take charge? Or do you think there are certain people that are just not meant to be? Like, what are the skills that you think you really need? Like, you were talking about books, talking about mentors.
Yeah.
If you have someone who's never been a leader, never thought of it, they can be trained to be a leader. Do you think that's possible or not?
You know, I'm just reflecting on what you're asking because I'm trying to connect it with the books I just talked about.
Yeah.
And if anything, if there's any key takeaway from these books, it is that courage is learnable. So if you can learn courage, if you can develop skills like listening skills and so on, if you understand, especially this new model of leadership, perhaps the traditional model of leadership may not have been one that's necessarily learnable, like being hierarchical and firm and so on. But I love the approach now of the school of what's called adaptive leadership. And I think that, you adapt to the situations you're in and you basically learn to lead. There are so many leaders out there, but they don't necessarily know that they're leaders. They don't define themselves as leaders, but they are leaders, sometimes in their own communities, doing very small projects on a grassroots level, but really making true impact and real change. These are leaders.
Yeah.
I think leadership is a skill you can develop.
What about you? Yes.
Yeah, I think that not everybody can be a leader. It needs a charisma, some power. You lead by example at the end of the day. So you should be fully aware of it. You should know how to lead. You should know what to do when you are leading. Our smile is our business card. I always say our behavior is what people are remembering after a while. I mean, now we are on TV, and then people will remember us maybe because we are humble, because we are talking, comfortably, because we are telling true stories, we are not inventing, or but you need to have something inside you to become a leader.
When you look at social media, there's so many people. You've got Gary Vee, you've got all these entrepreneurs who are sharing so many tips and so much guidance, and people are learning a lot. I feel entrepreneurship has been supported a lot on social media. Do you use social media a lot? Do you want to use it? Would you like to share your message of leadership at all?
Yes, sometimes I do. I personally use my Facebook page almost only for business.
Yeah.
Because people who are following me or who are willing to read what I am doing, they are eager to know what I'm doing as a leader. So I'm posting only everything. Sometimes once a year, I post something related to family or something very personal. On LinkedIn as well as, LinkedIn, it goes without saying. Instagram is purely for my friends, very strict friends.
Amazing.
So yes, I use it only for now. I am filming. I film my grandchildren. By the way, I have 3. So it's very much personal.
How important is social media when it comes to sharing?
Oh, social media is so important. I honestly, and in 2020, I made such good use of social media, in building the brand of She is Arab. I personally I use LinkedIn a lot. So LinkedIn is my main go-to social media platform. This is where I share my thoughts, my learnings. I'm also, currently on Instagram and so on. But just to Yasmina's point, I've realized now because I work, on She is Arab, so across the region, it differs from one country to the other across the region. So, for example, in Egypt and in Jordan, they're a lot more active on Facebook, for example, than they are on LinkedIn. In the Gulf region here, in the UAE and Saudi, you've got like maybe more than 4 million users from the UAE alone, if I'm not mistaken. So LinkedIn is key. Twitter is also very important for this region. I'm not active on Twitter. So it's really a choice and a capability, I would say, because it requires it requires a lot of, it's time consuming to be on social media, but it's so important.
How do you think different cultures have helped or inhibited women going into leadership roles? I think it plays a big part. What do you think?
I have
Culture, kind of culture regarding the environment and the family and the countries we all come from.
this is one of the points that I am constantly talking about. I really believe that culture and traditions play an integral role in what a woman is to become or not become in this region in particular. Um, Having said that, I don't think it's studied enough. I don't think it's taken into consideration enough. Sometimes we just look at the larger picture, the bigger picture. We look at the policies, we look at, but we don't actually connect with the culture and the traditions. And despite the fact that, sometimes you may disagree with what the culture says or what the expectation from a woman is in our culture. But, we need to have respect for cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to have respect for cultures. And I think that this is a big problem that we have. Many times, a lot of organizations come planning to work in the Arab world, but they don't look at localizing their approach, accommodating the culture and the traditions. And this is a big mistake. I've seen it time and again throughout my journey. What about you?
No, I started the session by answering your question. That I think that I lived in Latakia in Syria. It's on the seaside. The culture is totally different than in Damascus, for example, or Aleppo. It helped me a lot. I mean, it helped me first of all to start working in shipping. Then I became the first honorary consul in the Arab countries to become honorary consul. So I was doing things that females usually do not do. I mean, it was just very far away from it.
Yeah.
So I started doing it. So I think that culture is really very important. For me, I think it's just the beginning. Culture, atmosphere, family, rules and regulation of the country where you are also plays a big role.
Have you found it easy to be a leader at work and be the mommy at home? Find that balance?
Yeah, it should always be you should leave something. I mean, it should be something that you will be less active on it. So I decided to minimize my social life. I have my family is a priority, and then my work. So the social life, I'm very picky.
But when you were going into it, and you were starting the companies and everything, it must have been long hours at that time. It must have been tough.
But I was going to the office and back home, and I didn't go out. I went only to see my parents and back home. So, but it was my choice. Some people are blaming me, you don't have a social life. I said, I'm happy with it. It's my choice.
What about you?
That's a tough one because I mean, what worked for me, what worked for Yasmina, each one of us will have a different, equation for what would work best for them. But I really feel that in this day and time, we need to stop trying to separate work from life very much.
Yeah.
Not to say that I don't want to give, as I said, my number one value is my family. But I started looking at it more as an integration, as a marriage, as this is part of my life, but this is also part of my life. And because I'm so passionate about what I do as well, I think my kids are now so involved. They're very proud of me. They actually know what, they know what I'm doing. They come and they know, it's okay, mommy, I know that you're busy now, and we cherish the quality time that we spend together. So in that sense, and that's not, again, it's not a one size fits all. Every mother, I mean, I have some friends who just couldn't manage having a job and taking care of their children. And respect. You do what you feel is right, what's right for your family. I've taken breaks myself throughout my career from work. I stopped working, because I had to take care of my children. I'm living far from my family. I had no support system, but then I came back to work. So it's all about choices, and it's all about what you want to make of your life, really,
Exactly.
So
it's your
your balance
choice.
it's your
Exactly. It's your choice.
Yeah. I mean, I have female friends who after being at home with the kids are going crazy. They're like,
Yeah.
what a job. Everybody's, whereas my mum loved being at home with the kids.
Yeah.
It's individual choice. So looking to the future, where do you see yourself leading? How do you see yourself evolving as a leader? What would you like to become more of or change more of?
I mean, I would definitely like to see more Arab women in leadership positions. I'd like to see more Arab women in executive leadership positions, more Arab women in the media, telling their own story, owning the narrative. I'd like to see more Arab women speaking at events, and that's why we're here today, Yasmina and I. Thank you to the Female Factor for inviting us, of course. It's important that we share our voice, that we share our views. People get to know the region better and understand that women from the region, there are accomplished women, there are very successful women, there are a lot of women you can learn a lot from as well. So, and this is what we're trying to do at She is Arab as well, you know, showcase success stories and role models of Arab women and share them with the world. So, I mean, this is where I'm personally going with my journey.
Yasmin, where do you see yourself going? On the Forbes list again?
No, I have no idea. You know, it comes like that. I mean, I never planned to. Really, it comes by itself. I mean, I would like always to, now I'm focusing on helping the young generation.
That's what I was going to think. You two now could be the
Yes.
mentors.
Yes, and I just accepted a project from UNDP in Syria.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help them. I'm the mentor for having the first ladies club in Al Hasaka, it's in the north of Syria.
Amazing.
It's amazing. You know, it's a new challenge for me. I'm so happy to do it. So I'm really happy and ready to help the young generation. I would like to have more connections with them, help females as well. But I think that young boys and girls, young people need help and need, as Summer said, stories of success. We share our stories for them, for their glories. I mean, that's what I always say. So our stories are for them, for their future glory.
Well, I've seen the change in women. I mean, when I was young, you know, I do a lot of things for free for my family. Just an example, my niece, when she was 10, she created her own website, and I was in shock. So I said, "Could you do mine, please, for me?" And she went, "Yes, it will cost you." And I'm like,
Wow.
I feel like female leadership.
Capitalist all the way.
She started very early. So we can leave her out. For the others that are watching right now,
That's incredible.
it is, she's incredible, yes. But I really wish I was as assertive and strong as her when I was that age. So I think they are changing. You know, they've seen all the other women, they're watching YouTube, you know, so many women standing tall now that it's nothing to them anymore. You know, but, I still can't believe she charged her on to that. So I want to ask you, to all the ladies who are watching finally, what is some advice that you would give to the next generation of female leaders if they're preparing for a leadership role in the future? Some of your top tips.
Well, my top tip would be to use your voice. Number one, you know, I have personally passed on a lot of opportunities that had come my way to use my voice in my younger days at work, and I think it's a shame because in this day and time, having your own personal brand, sharing your thoughts, etc., is so important. So
You said you didn't speak up.
yes, I used to be invited to events. I wouldn't go because I didn't think it was important. I just didn't see. And I think that this is really one of the reasons why we also don't see so many women at events. Like there are some women. We conducted a survey before starting She is Arab, and a lot of the professional women we talked to basically said they second the opportunities to sometimes, most of the time, to male colleagues. You know, even if they were, you know, the boss,
Yeah.
they would second it to someone on the team, and it's partly shyness. There's a major factor of, you know, being timid. Also part of like thinking, what do I want? It's gonna waste my time. You know, I didn't understand at the time the value that such events or such opportunities would bring for me. I would say use your voice, using whichever outlets are available. So if you want to use the written word, write on social media, write a blog, get on a show, connect with Punam, she can interview you, and
I'd love to
and
interview everybody.
and really believe in yourself. What you know, like believing in yourself is the biggest challenge. And once you believe in yourself, anything is possible. The other thing, the last thing I would say is really to look at your mistakes or any hiccups on the road as the wind beneath your wings. You have to learn something from them. I mean, where I am today is because of the numerous mistakes I've done along the way.
again, all the numerous mistakes. I've got the three of us here on stage right now. And that's the end of our discussion for panel one, live from Dubai. But I want to say thank you, Yasmina, Samra.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the conversation. I'm
Thank
sure
you
when the
so
camera's off, we'll carry on. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you enjoy the rest of Female Factor. And we'll be back from Dubai in an hour for panel two.